Mort Show.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Saint Mort Show. This week I am sitting down with Kevin Sitaras.
Sitaras. Why does everybody do that?
It's because it's
David Sitaras?
I guess David Sitaras. It feels like the logical way to say your last name for some weird reason. Even though spelling-wise, the T, you want to emphasize the T, but it comes out in a D sound for whatever reason.
You know, the Greek pronunciation is Sitara. Yeah, that doesn't matter.
All I can think of is the scene in Wayne's World where they're meeting with Alice Cooper. He's like...
Milwaukee. Which means the good land.
Now, Kevin has been a longtime friend. I've probably been doing shows with... I've been friends with Kevin before I knew Kevin. And we'll get into that a little bit. But Kevin...
the memories of AIM.
...has been in multiple bands. But the most important band that he was in, to me, is In Case It Rains, which is sadly going to be broken up by the time this episode comes out. But he's moving on to bigger and better things. You're joining One Direction, correct?
I am joining One Direction, yes. I got called up by Harry, and he just said, hey, man, we need a drummer who looks really fine.
We've got a lot of controversy since this pot smoking picture came out.
Yeah. I just saw that. It came across my Facebook feed, and it said, substance. I'm like, fucking really? You can't just say it?
It's just
like,
pot.
Of all things,
fucking weed. He's smoking weed, and he's British. That's shit they don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, of all people to care.
It's like smoking a cigarette here.
Yeah. Of course, going back to Lindsay Lohan, the first time they called her with drugs, oh my god, Lindsay Lohan has drugs.
Miley. Remember Miley Cyrus with the bong?
Oh my god, or when was it the joint she pulled out at, was it the MTV Awards or something like that?
I'm sure.
She put out a joint and just smoked it on stage, and everybody's like, what the fuck? I'm like, really? You're surprised?
The best, though, is my favorite's Amanda Bynes throwing a bong at a cop. I'm like, man, there's breakdowns, and then there's Amanda Bynes style breakdown.
That was out of left field, too, kind of. You saw the slow, decline of a couple of the other ones. And then Amanda Bynes was just like, boom, I'm Amanda. My life is all of a sudden horrible. She drove a Beamer, and she's like, I'm retired from acting. I'm like, you didn't really have a career after the Amanda Show anyway.
So here's the perverted single life that is Matt Kelly, and my relationship with all my male friends who are also single is I was a night owl, and it was about midnight or 1 a.m. when I heard people talking about the fact that Amanda Bynes was posting nude photos of herself on Twitter.
What?
And I immediately...
And I missed this?
I immediately went on her Twitter, pulled out my cell phone, took pictures of the pictures on the Twitter feed, and sent them to my other single friend who I knew was in love with Amanda Bynes for him to look at in the morning.
Were they legit?
Oh, they were. She posted them from her on her own Twitter account.
Yeah, do you remember Haley Williams 2 years ago?
Yeah, she accidentally did that.
Yeah, somebody hacked my Twitter. I'm like, no, they didn't. You're laying in bed. Your tits were out. Definitely wasn't an accident. You meant to send it to Chad, I think.
Yeah, I think she meant to send it to someone and was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
No, the best response to a nude photo coming out was still Kat Dennings, because she was just like, yeah, it's fucking me.
Who's that?
The chick from Nick and Nora's.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
There was 10 pictures of her, and she, no denial, no excuses. She was like, yeah, I was sending pictures of myself naked to a boyfriend. What?
Yeah, I mean, at least she's honest about it.
And you know what? No one remembers that one happened, because there wasn't, a big controversy.
Yeah, because she was just like, yeah, that was my tits. What of it?
Yeah, they're monstrous. Enjoy.
Yeah. I'm looking up these Amanda Bynes pictures now.
She's not, you look at it and it's like, that's not Amanda Bynes. And then you look at pictures of her around that time period and you're like, oh, God, that is Amanda Bynes. What happened to her?
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Huh.
I was having a conversation yesterday with a friend of mine because I was watching a WWE countdown thing on the network. And it reminded me that more than one human being has had sex with China.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, how? How does... I don't want to be a dick, but how does that many moderately attractive wrestling dudes just be like, well, I couldn't get with Lita, so China's clearly the next best bet.
You know what's the worst thing about that? Is the fact that when you hear somebody like China has a porno, you have to go watch it.
Yeah, your curiosity
You can't even be like, that's going to be gross. There's no fucking way I want to watch that. You're like, that's going to be disgusting. Where the hell is it? I have to find it immediately.
She-Hulk in an Avenger porno.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Is she still doing porn?
I don't know.
I didn't even know she had a career in it until like a year or so ago. I randomly came across it on my internet travels, quote unquote. But yeah, I saw. I was like, oh yeah. Or no, you know what it was? I was bored one night and I was randomly Wikipediaing like random wrestlers, just because.
Dude, there's some interesting shit really that you find on wrestlers' Wikipedia.
And it said, oh, China has a porn career, and I was like, well, I knew about the one that was like an accident. I think she did with X-Pac.
Yeah, she did with X-Pac.
Yeah, but then I didn't know like it kept going, and as soon as I saw that, I was just like, I gotta download
because apparently this is. I don't know how soon it was, but apparently that was not too soon after she found out that Triple H was cheating on her with Stephanie McMahon for like a year and a half or something like that. So
how does that get hidden for that long?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, because when you're banging the boss's daughter and the boss likes you and is okay with it, I'm sure he goes out of his way to... Like, apparently, the whole scenario
but they're on tour for like 180, 200 days out of the year.
Close to 300, I think, now. The story that I heard was that she found a letter from like a year ago and was like... and confronted him. And she called... The first thing she did was call Vince McMahon, and Vince McMahon said, oh, so I guess the cat's out of the bag now. And then was like, well, we still want to renew your contract. And then, like, she showed up to work, and it was really awkward. And when she came home from work that day, there was a voicemail that was like, we're not going to renew your contract.
Oh, jeez. What is she doing? Like,
and then she, like, banged X-Pac, and he videotaped it, and then it became, like, a porn. Like,
well, do you remember on was it the Celebrity Show, Surreal Life? Or, yeah,
Surreal Life was the greatest show ever.
Where she was on it. And X-Pac, what's his real name? Sean
Whitmore?
Something like that, yeah. Something like that. But he went and visited her. And, like, I never really watched the show, but I was, like, flicking channels one night, and that happened to be the episode I came on. And I was like, what the hell? And then he's, like, on his knees begging, like, oh, please, baby, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, really?
The episode that the thing that got me in the Surreal Life was VH1 was doing a marathon of the second season. And that season was, like, Ron Jeremy, Vanilla Ice, Mini-Me... And I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm watching this. And I watched, like, a solid 4 or 5 hours of that show. Like, I was like, this is awesome.
Dude, you get sucked into any one of those shows. TV nowadays, like, this is something that I've found kind of amusing recently, is, like, TV nowadays is so much better than movies are. It, like, kicks movies, and collectively, like, every movie that's been coming out recently, a lot of them haven't even been doing that well. Like, majority of movies, it's been like, if it's not a superhero movie or a comedy with, like, one of four people... Yeah, it seems to be flopping, you know. So, but I mean, TV's just so damn good, and like
they've been really loosening up the reins.
Yeah,
people have been really you've been seeing really creative, interesting TV shows for the first time in years.
Yeah, it's been awesome. You know, like I'm a huge Aaron Sorkin fan. Netflix is the fucking devil because of this.
You say that now, but when you're going to be on your fucking 4-month tour that we're going to talk about, I'm sure those lonely nights of Netflix are going to be a welcome.
You know, one of the first things I asked, they're like, oh, we're going on tour and blah, 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 and we have a van or we have a bus, whatever. By the way,
we should probably say that you're actually in Rivers Monroe and not One Direction. We still haven't confirmed that.
To be completely clear, there's a band called Rivers Monroe. That's who I'm playing with now. Thank you, Matt. So one of the first things I asked was like, please God tell me there's going to be internet. And they're like, oh yeah, there's internet. Our first show is in Kansas City, which is a 17-hour drive from here.
Yeah.
If I had to sit and talk to 5 or 6 people for 17 hours straight,
that you kind of only vaguely know. Like, it's not even like people that you've been friends with and hanging out with.
And like, they're all cool. Like, I love the guys. They seem like really cool guys and stuff. But I mean, anybody, they can be the most awesome person in the world. If you just met them a few weeks ago, and like, this is obviously a fairly new development, then like, you're only have so much to talk about. You know, you find common ground. Especially
if you're talking for 17 hours, you finish up every topic known to man your first day of tour and then have nothing to talk about.
The only thing that'll be good is like the weather will be changing as we drive, so that'll keep one conversation going, I guess. But oh look, it's raining now.
And the groupies.
Yeah, and the groupies. Got to have somebody going downtown.
Yeah, no, but back to what we were saying though, TV and Netflix and all that, it's been fucking awesome. It's been like amazing what they've been getting away with. I'm more excited about like Orange is the New Black in a week and a half.
That's a show I have yet to watch.
Oh my
God. Girlfriend, we were watching TV the other day. Was it yesterday? and we saw a commercial come on for it. She's like, "Oh my god, it's coming back on." I was just like, "Yeah, I should probably watch that." Because the worst thing is like, I pick the worst damn times to get into shows. For example, I became obsessed with The West Wing. I'm big.
That's right. You were like all about The West Wing.
I'm big into politics, and like Aaron Sorkin, I adore him.
That's a quick breeze through show.
Oh my god, 176 episodes I think it was, and like I sat down, I watched like the first 3 seasons or so, and they're all like 45-minute episodes. I watched like the first 3 seasons, and then I kind of gave it up because something else came on I wanted to watch, and then I randomly picked it back up, and then I was hooked again, and then I watched the rest of the series, and every season is like 22 episodes of 45-minute episodes, and I was like, at one point I finished a season in like 2.5 days.
Orange is the New Black is like 12.5 hours of your time.
Really?
It's 50 to 55 minutes.
Did you watch House of Cards?
I have it, and Jeff has. My roommate has watched it, and he loves it.
That's everybody I know. Nobody has said anything bad about it ever. Everybody's like, "No,
pretty
you should
much
watch
if it's
it."
a Netflix show, from what I hear, as long as it's not Hemlock Grove or whatever that shit was, they're good. Yeah. Like I liked the 4th season of Arrested Development. I didn't love it, but I was glad to have it back. Like, it's like one of those things where it's like, fucking stop complaining that something that you love and have been wanting to come back for so long came back and it wasn't amazing. Like, you knew it wasn't going to be amazing, but it was good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely good, and it was better than I expected. Especially considering the fact that there had been so much time between.
Well, and I think the big problem was that the first 3 episodes kind of suck until you watch them a second time.
Yeah.
So, like, everyone watched those first 2 or 3 episodes, it was kind of like, oh, God. Oh no!
Yeah.
It's terrible. And then like you get to the end of the season and you rewatch those 3 episodes, and all these like little things that were just stupid jokes are brilliant jokes.
Yeah.
Because you've already seen the bigger picture, and you're like, there's so many things that were there.
Yeah.
I was just mad that it ended on a cliffhanger, because it never ended on a cliffhanger before. Like, every season previously was very self-contained, and it would be like, this is the end of this season, and we might not get renewed, so this is the end of the show. And it did that for 3 seasons, and I did not expect the 4th. I thought the 4th season was the last season.
Which is funny, yeah, because, like, when they all came back, they made it, like, I don't say they made it abundantly clear, but they implied it pretty well that this was like not going to happen again.
Yeah.
You know that, and you kind of understand it too, because you look at, I don't know what the hell happened to Michael Cera. All of a sudden, he just fell off the face of the earth real quick. But you look at guys like him who at the time seemed to be on the rise. They're doing pretty well for themselves, and then and I've drawn a blank on some of the cast members, but like everybody all together, I was just kind of like, oh, Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised that they got him to do it again, but ending on that cliffhanger, you're just kind of like, really?
Yeah.
Like, now what?
Well, they said that the creator was like, this is just part 1 of a 3-part thing.
Oh, did they?
He's like, I still haven't decided if the other parts are going to be movies or more seasons. He's like, but it's not like, that's not the end. Like, there's more story to tell. I think what happened with Michael Cera, whatever, no one went to see what I think were his 2 best films.
Which ones?
Scott Pilgrim and Youth in Revolt were both these really well done movies.
I never saw Youth in Revolt. Scott Pilgrim is fantastic.
But the problem is that people were already burnt out on him.
Yeah.
And that, like, I think it's unfair. I feel like we let a lot of veteran, old, attractive actors get away with playing the same character their entire career.
Tom Cruise.
But, like, when it's, like, a younger, geekier-looking guy, like, if they do the same kind of role 3 times in a row, it's like, oh, that's all they know how to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, because, like, Jack Nicholson never played someone that wasn't a crazy character.
Yeah. No, and I get that. I think it's, like, this is shitty to say, but it is the business, and, like, too many people get typecast, and they get typecast quick, and they have that image that goes along with it, like he's one of those dudes that like he plays that kind of part and he looks that kind of part,
and he kind of is that kind of part.
And that's kind of how he is anyway, so it's kind of like somebody just gives him lines like, here you go. And I'm not saying he's a bad actor at all. I think he's good, especially Scott Pilgrim. I was pleasantly surprised at how good he did.
I think a huge chunk of it too is the internet.
Yeah,
I think there's and I hate saying this because so much of what I do would not be known by anybody had it not been for the internet. but it's too, like, it gives such a megaphone to the entire world that it's like,
unfortunately,
that little joke between you and your friends of like, oh man, Michael Cera plays the same character and everything, turns into like this giant fact between everybody because everyone's yelling it at the same time in their megaphone across the internet instead of just kind of whispering to their friends like, hey, he's playing the same character again. You know what I mean? Like, and there's a lot of things that the internet has taken away from me, which I still will always hate it for. The two big ones being like the ability to go to the movie theaters and be genuinely surprised by the trailers that I see.
Yeah.
Like, I miss that. The one that I always remember is seeing the Lost World trailer because you didn't know that it was coming. You didn't know that there was going to be another Jurassic Park.
You didn't know if it was going to be good, as we found out later.
Yeah. But, like, you heard all these rumors like, oh, there's going to be another Jurassic Park movie.
Did you like The Lost World?
I think that The Lost World is okay, but it overstays its welcome. And they should have never taken it into New York. I think that if the movie was just them
ended
on that
how the
island...
book did. You know, the book ended without them going to I think it was San Fran. Didn't they go to San Fran?
Yeah, well, the book has a lot of issues.
Yeah, well,
because the book picks up where the movie left off and not where the book left off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I remember hearing Doug Benson talk about one particular moment in that movie where he said, like, as shitty as Lost World is, the scene where the dinosaur is pushing the RV or whatever off the cliff is probably the most suspenseful sequence Steven Spielberg had done in years.
Yeah.
And it really is. Like, you're watching, like, man, this whole scene is like, it's like a 25-minute sequence that's just, is this thing going to go over the cliff or not?
I kind of wonder how long it took them to shoot that and how, like, they had to come in day after day after day and be like,
But it worked. Like, you're like, oh my God. Like, even knowing the outcome, you still watch that scene, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, it is a really well done scene. And there's a lot of good in The Lost World, but it's way too long, and the New York stuff is just kind of like, eh. And, I mean, there's a Cracked video where they dissect the first two movies and all the weird things in it. And one of the things they talk about is how the fuck did the T-Rex get locked back in to...
Yeah, that was something that always kind of confused me, too. It was like, the door is closed, he's like, I'm done.
Yeah, well, they're like, what, was he leaping into it while chewing a guy who was pressing the close button, and then he, like, spit out the hand at the very last moment?
Yeah.
He's like, and if you find a severed hand pressed on the close button, you probably shouldn't hit the open button.
But that's movie logic. The same thing where, like, did you see the new Godzilla yet? No. I don't want to spill too much, but there's a point when I didn't know that one of the Olsen chicks was in it, by the way. Not
I heard about that.
Ashley, it's the other one, Elizabeth,
I guess.
I think her name is. But, like, there's a point where, like, she turns around, like, shit's going crazy and, like, about the whole city's collapsing, and she turns around and just watches for a second. I'm like, bitch, run! Like, why? Why are you doing that?
I'll always remember Jonathan London's review of Cloverfield when he was just going through all the issues that he had with Cloverfield.
That is a movie I saw and I completely blocked out of my head.
And his two biggest complaints was, first of all, like, fuck this guy. Like, this guy doesn't understand bros before hoes. Everyone's escaping the city, and he's like, let's go back in the city for that girl that I broke up with. And his friends who understand the importance of bros before hoes are like, I'll come along with you, even though I think it's a bad idea, because this is what you do for your friends. But, like, every single one of his friends who dies, it's because of him.
Yep.
Like, they could all be safe and alive if they didn't listen to their one idiot friend.
Let that be a lesson to you, folks. If you ever have a situation where the world seems like it's going to end, and your friend is like, I need to go back and save somebody, say, all right, have fun.
Yeah.
Going this way.
And then the other one was like, oh, the fucking government can't figure out how to stop these beasts. They're unstoppable, but a group of idiots in the subway can get out because they throw shoes at them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on how good or bad the movie is on how much you're willing to give up on. Because Christopher Nolan, I had a friend who once said Christopher Nolan makes the most flawed 5-star movies of all time. Like, there's tons of inconsistencies, there's tons of continuity issues, there's tons of logical leaps, but you're so entertained by the movie that you just block them out of your head.
Yeah.
Dark Knight Rises, I had a few that even though I kind of enjoyed the movie, I was still like, how the fuck did he get back into Gotham?
Yeah, I mean, there is a couple of there are a couple things that, like, I saw in the movie, but I was like, that whole series, like, Batman Begins didn't really strike me that much. Like, I thought it was good, but...
See, I know a lot of people, like, Jeff upstairs thinks that that's the best one.
Batman Begins? Honestly, I don't think I've seen it since I saw it in theaters. I went and saw it in IMAX. I own it,
and I don't think I've seen it since I saw it in theaters.
Really? Yeah, I think I saw it in IMAX when it first opened. I was like, oh, that was pretty good. And then when Dark Knight was coming out, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to go see it just to see how good it is and whatever, because I feel obligated, I guess. And then I saw it, and, like everybody else, I left and I was floored, and I was like, wow, it's like one of the best movies I've ever seen. But
you know what's weird is I recently decided to rewatch the 2 Tim Burton Batman movies, and I will never say that Dark Knight is not a superior film, but I still have more fun watching Batman and Batman Returns.
So I guess now's a good time to confess I've never actually seen the first two Batman movies. Yeah, I feel bad about that. I don't like to admit that.
Well, they're not, and they're bad movies, and they're terrible comic adaptations. Like, absolutely horrendous adaptations.
But I saw Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Oof.
I know.
Oof.
Isn't that terrible? I'm going to hell.
No, they're awful adaptations of source material. Like, Nolan did a good job of adapting source material, but those 2 Batman movies, Michael Keaton's performance, I think, is awesome, and there's just moments. There's never a moment that surpasses the pencil trick, but there's moments with both the Penguin and the Joker in those movies that are just so bizarre.
I didn't even realize Michael Jai White was in that movie until somebody pointed that out. He was one of the guys sitting at that table.
Oh, yeah. Michael Jai White will always, for me, be Black Dynamite.
Yeah.
It used to be Spawn, and then Black Dynamite happened. I'm like, no.
Did you like the Spawn movie?
No, but I own it, and I love it. Like, it's like, I know it's a piece of shit. It's right up there with, like, Super Mario Brothers. Like, I know that movie's a piece of garbage, but I'll watch it, like, once a year because it's dumb entertainment from my childhood.
What about Mortal Kombat? Did you see the first Mortal Kombat?
I have the first 2. Like, Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat Annihilation over there. I know that's your shit. That's your video game.
What did you think of the movies?
I mean...
Everyone thinks the second one sucked. I don't want to say the second one sucked. I thought it was... okay,
I think the second one's laughably bad at points.
Yeah, I mean, I get why that is, and there's actually, I've seen the movie so many times, I've seen so many, like, problems with it. There's one in particular where, like, Shao Kahn hits Rain into the fire pit, and then later he hits, I think, Shiva into it, and then it showed Rain falling into it again.
Well, like, my big thing is, and this, I mean... How do you really do a Mortal Kombat movie? Like it's one of those things where it's like, first of all, how do you do a Mortal Kombat movie? Secondly, how do you do a Mortal Kombat movie as a PG-13?
Yeah. Well, how do you do any video game movie? Think about that. Like when you take...
the thing. Like most of the video game movies, like, people make fun of Super Mario all they want, but like, what exactly did they have to work off of?
Yeah. But I mean, like when you take any video game, like you're talking about games that are designed to last hours. Like people had said, oh, it'd be awesome to make a Legend of Zelda movie, and I think that would be an amazing movie too. But you got to figure, what game are they going to work off of? Well, logically, they go off of Ocarina of Time, because I don't know if you played Ocarina of Time.
I've only ever played Link to the Past, because we've had this argument.
Yeah, we did.
But my thing with how to do a Zelda movie, and I still stand by this with my knowledge of Link to the Past, is that Link to the Past, and maybe Ocarina of Time has this too, but Link to the Past has a very definitive moment where you could do a 2-part film.
Yeah.
Where you do the first movie in the light world, and there's those 3 castles that he has to defeat, and then he gets transported to the dark world, and it's a cool-ass cliffhanger. It's a dark ending. If you never get to make a second movie, it's a really fucked up way to go out. But if people are like, yo, we're into this, then you get to do an even more bizarre film in the dark world where you've got these giant fucking scorpions and like all types of shit out there. But, I mean, you saw that list. I'm a firm believer that a good, fun, like, Earthworm Jim could be an interesting movie.
Yeah, that would be
cool. Like, it needs to be, like, a whacked-out game that has a wide range of characters. Like, that's my issue with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. People were, like, bitching about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles remake. And, like, I've seen the trailer. It's bad. But I actually expected it to be far worse. Like, when I went into that trailer, I was like, oh, this isn't the shittiest thing I've ever seen.
Honestly, if they didn't look so ridiculous, I think that movie would actually be worth watching.
But my issue, and this is an issue I have with a lot of comic book movies too, is let's get past Shredder. Like there are so many other villains and so many more interesting characters, and like I get that Shredder's like the big bad, but you can still have a Krang in there. And
what about Rat King?
Or the Rat King, or my fucking dude was Baxter Fly, and the fact that I've never seen Baxter Fly in any live action style.
Well, I don't think he was ever. He was in any of the movies ever, because like they
never even had a Baxter character.
Yeah, Baxter Stockman was not in it at all. The only one that came kind of close was in the second movie, where they had that scientist guy that they kind of befriended.
Which I remember watching it thinking like, oh shit, that's going to be Baxter.
Yeah, and it wasn't.
Well, and like at least it was like an introduction of a character that could become Baxter Fly in the third movie, but instead they went back to China. And that's the only Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie I don't own, because I'm just like, I hated that when I was a kid watching it in the theaters.
Really?
And I was so mad. Because like for me, I don't really care about the Turtles. Like, it's weird to say that, but, like, as a kid, by the time Part 3 came around, I was like, whatever, Turtles are fine, they look the same, they do whatever. Like, I was all about the fucking turtle, and, what the fuck were the characters in the second one? Secret of the Ooze.
Which ones?
The evil mutants. There's the
Toko and Razor.
Toko and Razor, like, and that's how I've always been. I'm a villains person. I heard someone say, like, a hero's only as good as their villains.
Yeah.
Which is why I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man's got all these crazy villains. I like Batman. He's my favorite DC character because he has so many crazy villains to go up against. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has so many interesting villains, and none of them seem to ever make an appearance in any of the fucking movies.
Yeah.
So that's like, for me, I want to see all these cool creatures that we made in the comics and in the cartoon and in the toy line.
I will say that I'm interested to see, like, there's no doubt that this movie is going to, like, end up coming out and having this massive reception, whatever. They'll make a ton of money, and then they'll make a second, possibly a third. I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with the second one, because it'll be really cool, despite the fact that everybody that knows me knows I hate Michael Bay with a fire of 1,000 suns, but it would be really interesting to see if they go somewhere else. Like, where else would they go? Or, you know, would they pick somebody else out? Or would they do like the second movie did, where they brought back Shredder and, you know, and then they made him Super Shredder at the end, or whatever. Like, that's something I'm more gunning for. Like, I'll watch the first movie and their ridiculous human-looking turtle things.
Well, and that's a big thing, is just like, I mean, everyone gets bored of an origin story. Like, you always, it's always just because...
At least they're not aliens now.
And I've heard people bitch about the whole, like, the thing with the lab or whatever. And I don't know if this was intentional or not, but I've been reading, Kevin Eastman started a new Ninja Turtles comic book series.
Really?
Like about 3 or 4 years ago.
Wow.
And I started reading it, and that's in there. Like, people were like, oh, Shredder fucking genetically created the Ninja Turtles, like, fucking bullshit. But that's in the comic book right now, is that Shredder was financing Stockman's lab, and they made this mutanogen. Now, it wasn't meant with the intention of creating.
But Shredder wasn't Oroku Saki now. Shredder was just some random dude.
No, it's all the reincarnations of the people from, like, 200 years ago. Because they talk about how Leonardo, Michelangelo, all them are actually the reincarnated souls of Splinter's children in these mutant turtles. Fucking stupid. Like, I'm like, whatever, just bring out Krang and Baxter.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's all I care
Where's
about.
Where's my pink puff of goodness?
Yeah. Because I, like, oh my god, do you remember, I forgot all about this guy until my friend brought him up, but the most fucked up of all the characters that you could buy the toys for was, like...
Leatherhead?
No. Like, Translucent Man?
What?
It was just like a giant clear body that was like a brain and eyes and like internal organs.
I don't remember that at all.
Oh my god, if I show you this, A, you'll remember it, and B, you'll be like, that is a fucked up kid's toy.
That's...
Yes. But no, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys were incredible.
I had the band.
Incredible. And that's the stuff I think, all I cared about was the weird ass villains. Scumbug, and all that. Like, there were so many cool creatures that they would create. We haven't talked about your music at all. So, Kevin somehow found my contact information in, like, when I was in college, I think, and I started doing shows, and he would message me about...
I don't think you were in college. I think I was in high school. I think I was was I?
You were a Jew?
I was I was a senior. So, but yeah, it was because somebody at the church I was going to at the time.
I can't remember. You're older or younger than me?
I'm younger than you by a year. I'm 27. You
okay, so if you were senior, I would have been a freshman in college.
Yeah, I guess you were.
So I just started doing chords.
Yeah.
And you had contacted me somehow.
Yeah, I contacted you through AIM because Andrew Emsley, formerly known as Bauer.
Yeah.
He was the one that was just like, oh, you're looking for a band. Well, talk to Matt Kelly. He has his finger on the pulse. He knows everybody and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, all right, who is this Matt Kelly character? And I somehow ended up with your screen name. I don't remember if he gave it to me.
Was Original Sins the first one I sent you to?
Yeah.
Okay, so I sent you to Original Sins. And you turned them into Lesser Known Heroes.
No, they turned them... As I was walking in, that was their idea. They're like, we're going to change our moniker, and we're going to be called Lesser Known Heroes, whatever. Which I then found out that my good friend Clark, who is my good friend now, I didn't really know him back then. Was the
founding member of the original Lesser Known Heroes.
There was a band called Lesser Known Heroes, and I had no idea.
From the same fucking town.
From the same town, but I wasn't in the scene at all at that point. Like, this was the first time I had, like, really come into the scene, because before this...
that was a huge fucking controversy when they changed their name to Lesser Known Heroes. Because it was like literally, like Clark's band Lesser Known Heroes wasn't gone more than a year, and they had played a ton of shows. Like people came out, not a ton of people, but people came out to Lesser Known Heroes shows.
That's really funny.
So it was kind of like, what are you fucking kidding me? Like that would be the same as if I was just like, all right, well I'm gonna form a band. I'm just gonna call it Wake the Sleeper and just start putting the name of. It'd be like, well, fucking Wake the Sleeper's gone.
So
there could be two Wake the Sleepers from the same town.
Well, what ended up happening? Yeah, right. There actually is another Wake the Sleeper. I found out,
but like from another area.
Yeah, from another area. Apparently, they're a fairly new band. I don't want to say they're new, like a year old maybe. But anyway, so I as I walked in, they said we're changing the name to Lesser Known Heroes. Bear in mind again that I was not in the scene at all, so I didn't know anybody. I had no idea there was another band called Lesser Known Heroes. Now that I do know that, I kind of want to hit up some of the other guys and be like, you motherfuckers, did you know this? You sons of bitches.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, they had to have.
They went to high school with us.
Yeah.
Like, they were in the same high school. They saw the flyers. And then they did a pop punk. Like, they changed their sound to pop punk, which was the sound. Like, their stuff sounded like shitty Lesser Known Heroes songs.
So, when Lesser Known Heroes...
Shittier Lesser Known Heroes.
I think it was Clark had hit me up, and he had said, that's our... He had hit us up through MySpace. That's how old this was.
Yeah.
And I had said, well... I was just bullshitting because I was trying to be badass. I was like, well, we trademarked the name, so it's ours now, so you can't do anything. I'm sorry, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. This is our band name. Come to find out a couple years later, I was tying him to him, who I actually now share a room with in our practice space. The Skylife is our roommate band. So,
I'm curious if that's also Team Goldie's practice space.
Yeah, it is now. Because they hit me up the other day.
Skylife with Matt and Biggest.
He hit me up the other day and he was just like, "You guys playing Sunday?" And I was like, "No, why?" He's like, "Okay, cool. Goldie's going to practice." I was like, "Oh, is that how it is?" I guess we're all just. I was like, I can't really bullshit because I've had other people in there too. Whatever. But yeah. So anyway, I got into Lesser Known Heroes, and then after Lesser Known Heroes kind of had some problems here and there, I kind of bailed out of that and then went back to you again and was like, I need a new band.
Which the way in which you bailed out made it really hard for me to recommend you to another band. I like that you skimmed over this. Was taking advantage of the fact that you had access to their MySpace page. You made a MySpace post that you were leaving the band without telling the band that you were leaving the band. And I remember getting a message being like, "What the fuck's up with your friend Kevin?" And I'm like, "I don't know him."
Yeah, because I hadn't met you yet at this point. We're still just internet friends. Oh my god! And we lived 5 minutes from each other. We never met until a couple years later. Yeah, so I actually completely forgot about that until you just mentioned that.
Yeah, no, I never forgot about that. Because they were like, "What the fuck's up with this kid?"
Did you know that we had some sort of fight? I don't remember what the fight was about, but when that happened, I was just like really pissed. And they were really pissed at me, and I was just like, all right, this is fucking ridiculous, so whatever. So that was when I made that post. I was like, they'll find out through that. I don't want to ever talk to them people again at the point, which, by the way, I'm now really good friends, again, with the one guitar player. But
he was, I mean, he's been on the show, Anthony from Spoken Life.
Yeah.
And him and I talked about it, too. And
Did you really? I'm going to go back and listen to that podcast.
We didn't get, like, deep into it, but we talked about the fact that he was in Original Sins. But, I've had a few issues in the past with those guys, but never anything massive. But even like from the very beginning, Anthony's just like the nicest dude. Like I even believe that your whole like, I was pissed off and they were pissed off. I feel like you have to add on, like, except for Anthony.
Yeah, like, actually, it's funny you say it because Anthony, believe it or not, at one point I had said, all right, well, if you go, I don't want to just completely walk out of the band. Before I'd made this post, I had said something like, I don't want to completely walk out of the band so they kind of know what's coming. So if you guys really need me to play some shows or whatever, just let me know. And apparently Anthony was the one that was just kind of like, no.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? You of all people? Because I don't know if that was, I think it was the bass player Rob had said that. So I don't know if it was actually he was kind of landing on Anthony and that wasn't true, or if Anthony was genuinely pissed at me, which, I mean, I'm sorry, Anthony, if you're listening to this now, years later. That is my apology. But let's move past that because that's, thank God, in the past. We all joke about it now.
Well, and then there was the band that I finally met you from, which was Proven Worth.
Yep.
Who, luckily for you, you had quit Original Sins right when they were looking for a drummer.
Yeah.
And I recommended you to them. And
God bless you for that one after that display of...
and I mean, Proven Worth was a pretty I mean, maybe I'm remembering it incorrectly, but I feel like they had a pretty good chunk of time as a band.
Yeah, I mean, I was with Proven Worth
especially for a local band level.
Yeah, they were together for, well, they kind of started off...
It was like 2 years as an acoustic duo.
Yeah, exactly, and then they started off full band. I think I came in like a year and a half after they were a full band, because they had their original drummer, whatever his name was. I think his name was Dan.
But you were drumming for him for a while. Like, that wasn't just like a 6-month gig. I feel like there was a couple years in there.
I was there until I was 19 to 21, because I remember the last show we played was 2 weeks after I turned 21. It was kind of like my birthday show, and that segued into Wake the Sleeper, and why I quit was there's a whole story there.
So I'm trying to remember, because there's a band, there is the worst band that you've ever been in, and it eventually became Wake the Sleeper.
Yes.
But were you in Wake the Sleeper first before you joined Subpoena, or did you join Subpoena and then they brought in Chris and it became Wake the Sleeper?
So the way Subpoena happened was being the
and seriously, worst band in local history. Like,
you know what's really funny is that everybody says that, but out of all the bands that have been around here, they're one of the few that were actually signed to a label.
And that's what makes me so embarrassed, is that I listen to them and I'm just like, this is so... Like, and I'm not a metal person, so I'm obviously... There's a little bit of bias in there, but I remember listening to them for the first time and just being like, what the fuck is this bullshit?
Well, for the record, they weren't bad in the sense that they were a not tight band. They were tight in what they did. They were good musicians. The one guitar player...
It was a big vocal issue, really.
Yeah,
their vocals were bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. When Chris came
Cookie Monster, just like...
Yeah. Chris came in, and actually the song sounded a million times better, but I'll get to that in a second. So, basically what happened was, I always browse Craigslist, and at the time, there's a website called Harmony Central, but looking to see who's looking for musicians, because I also play cover gigs here and there, and... I'm always looking to see if anybody needs studio work done or if they need a fill-in drummer for a cover band gig, whatever. So as I was browsing Craigslist, I came across this ad for Subpoena, and I don't remember if it said who they were in the posting, but they had said signed metal band looking for a drummer, blah, 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 blah. So I responded to it, we talked, I went on audition, and what happened was Keith, the guitar player, said, okay, so I have to go tour with this other band on our label, this weird acoustic band. It was like a dude, I don't even remember what his name was, Morris or something. It was like this 12-string acoustic guy who had like a 6-piece band behind him. He needed a lead guitar player. So Keith was like, I'm going to go tour with this band for a month. In the span of time, can you replace the rest of the band? Because in the midst of all this, there was this massive like exodus within the band where it was left to be him and the bass player.
Yeah.
And the bass player wasn't around for whatever reason for a couple weeks. So he said, you seem to know what you're doing. I'm going to trust you. Can you replace the band while I'm gone, and I'll come back and we'll start figuring things out? I said, yeah, sure. So this is awkward, but I guess I'll take control of your band now as
I've just joined it a week ago.
As I met you one time, and you're like, here's my band, bye. So I was like, so anyway, so I posted an ad on Craigslist, and I was like, I'll find a senior first. That'll be the easiest thing to do, I guess. Or the best way for me to go about it would be to find a senior just so I have somebody learning something, and because I knew that I had wanted the band to go in kind of a different direction.
Yeah.
And I knew they were signed, so I knew that we had some leeway that I could, at least do something different.
Yeah.
So, found Chris, and Chris is the singer from Wake the Sleeper. Found Chris. I had no idea who he was. I had no idea that he was actually this, like, local legend guy who knows fucking everybody.
Yeah.
No idea whatsoever, because I didn't know who he was. So, I brought Chris in, and then we had talked a little bit more, and then he had brought in Tony to be a guitar player because we needed another guitar player. So, in the midst of all this, the bass player came back, and we kind of started rehearsing and discussing things, and then Keith had said, I don't know how this is going to work, but what I'm going to do, he had been in and out of practice a few times in the midst of all this, and he said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a hard drive of stuff, and it's going to be all my ideas, so I'm going to go straight for the band, but I have to go and do this other band. To which my response was kind of like, the fuck are you doing? Are you serious? So I was like, okay, sure. So he went back on tour with this band again, and while that was happening, I had said, I don't really want to deal with this. So because he had promised me all these things and kind of like screwed me over in a lot of ways, because then he quit and kind of left me with like, here's my band, go be fruitful. You know, I'm like, so I was running the MySpace at the time. So I said, okay, well, I'm running the MySpace. So since this is what's happening, we need to talk about things. So the whole band kind of had a meeting, and I said, you know, you guys were in your last band, Wake the Sleeper. Could we pull some of that material and kind of get rolling and maybe just pull Wake the Sleeper back together and as it was? And they said, yeah, we could do that. So that was how Wake the Sleeper kind of came back. Wake the Sleeper was a band
Well, and I knew Wake the Sleeper because there was a battle of the bands in Westchester that Committed and Team Goldie were on, and Wake the Sleeper was the third band, and then the fourth band was like this shitty sludge metal band.
Yeah.
And the sludge metal band won.
Really?
Like, yeah.
Wow.
But they were awful. They were like Subpoena level bad. But,
thanks.
But yeah, like that was the first time I ever met Chris, and I don't even know if Anthony was a guitarist by then.
He was, because he was always a guitar player.
So
there was another guitar player, though.
Yeah. Well, there was a chick in their band.
Yeah, Jess. She actually sat in and played another show with us. Oddly enough, at another battle of the bands, we ended up winning.
But yeah, so I was like, what the hell's this? Like, this is really good. Because it was like, I'd never heard a band that sounded like this before. And before I could ever book them, they broke up.
Yep.
And then I stayed in touch with Chris every once in a while. Because, you know, I love you if you're listening, buddy. But once Chris is in your life, it's hard for Chris not to be in your life. So he was constantly hitting me up and telling me what was going on. And you had told me you had joined Subpoena. And then he told me he was joining Subpoena. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening in this world? Where all these people who I know are talented are joining such a shit band. And then he's like, so I'm going to just... And now I'm hearing different stories, because I swear Chris made it sound like it was his idea that Subpoena should just become Wake the Sleeper, but I'm inclined to believe it was you.
No, let me make that clear, because I can actually answer that honestly. It was me saying we should take Wake the Sleeper music, and I think it was Chris that had said, why don't we just be Wake the Sleeper? To which my response was kind of like, well, I mean, we were holding on to the Subpoena name because of the MySpace, and I was like, well, I control the MySpace, so I'll just change it to Wake the Sleeper. Fuck it. So that's what I was going to do.
Hundreds and thousands of MySpace fans are like, what the fuck? When did I friend these guys?
Yeah, exactly. I think they had like 12,000 fans or 12,000 friends at the time.
And by the time you were done with it, they had 2,000 friends.
Yeah, right. So I started switching things over, and then the bass player was kind of like, well, I don't really want to do that because it was my band too. And I was like, all right, well, there's the door. No, I'm just kidding. But I was like, all right, well, I understand that. And then he took back control of the MySpace, and then he ended up saying, I don't want to do this. So, long story short, we found a bass player that lasted for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of what happened. And then Chris also knew Ryan, who was in another band called In Dire Need. And he came on board, and then it was the four of us for a while. Yeah, we had...
With the rotating bassist.
With the rotating bassist, yeah. We had Corey. Corey was the first bass player we had, who he sat in for, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months, I guess. And then after he left... that was kind of like the running joke for those of you who don't know who Wake the Sleeper is. We're the band that breaks up and gets back together every other week. So basically what happened was he left, and then we had decided, even though we were kind of starting to develop a local following, we actually did a lot better than I expected, honestly. But after that happened, we had just kind of said, okay, well, for whatever reason, we had decided it was going to end. Like, we all ended on amicable terms and whatever. So we ended, and then we got back together, I don't know, like a year later, I guess. But it's always been, after that initial ending, and like whenever we would quote unquote break up after that, they weren't really breakups as much as they were just kind of like, we had said like once or twice after that we were playing the last show. And it was because at the time we thought they were. We thought that our schedules are going to be too busy. It just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and we usually had a decent draw, and you know, it was fun for us to do last shows, quote unquote. But you know, like the first last show that we did, we filled the room pretty much. Actually, video, which is cool. At Venario's of all places, which is the fucking worst place to play, especially in the summer.
Yeah.
And as a drummer, I was a drummer.
But it's pretty easy to fill the place.
Oh yeah, it's easy to fill. And
you get 40, like 30 people in there. You've got a packed house.
Exactly. We had like 30 or 40 people there, and it was so fucking hot. And I just remember like sitting down behind my drums, and before having to hit a single note, I was sweating. And I was like, this is going to be a long night. I have a half-hour set to play. That's it, mind you. And I'm used to playing like 4-hour-long gigs and cover bands. And I'm sitting there going, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
This is going to be fucking horrible.
Well, and that's what basically when Wake the Sleeper fell apart, unless I'm like forgetting a band somewhere along the lines, it was about 3 or 4 years of you just kind of doing like cover bands and occasionally bands that you used to be in doing reunion shows.
Yeah, like I had started playing with this band Searchlight Rescue, which was
basically Proven Worth.
It was me and the singer from Proven Worth and a couple other guys. Yeah, and like we started doing okay, and we recorded an EP, and
all I ever had, I think I still just have like, oh no, you sent me the tracks finally.
The vocal
But for
tracks.
A while I only had like one instrumental track.
Yeah. But like we started to do okay, and then things just kind of fell apart for a lot of different reasons. There are personal reasons, some of the members' parts. Nothing bad. None of us were mad at each other, but I won't get into it.
Just busy lives and whatnot.
It was a little more than that, but yeah. So when that kind of crumbled, I was sad and I didn't know what to do, and I was kind of like, fuck it, I'm done. I don't care anymore. I want to go play in cover bands, make money, and because you obviously don't do that in original bands unless you're making lots of money.
Yeah.
And then I started dating my girlfriend, and I quit music for a little bit. Didn't completely quit, but I quit for a couple months because I had decided that at any point while I was in bands, I would date somebody and it would last for a few months maybe, and they would realize that like music was what I wanted to do, and that was it. And it wasn't that I didn't want to spend time with them.
They were going to be the second love to music.
Right, exactly. It was always going to be music.
And you met a girl who actually didn't.
And I met a girl
who
understood it. Yeah. And well, I had decided when me and her made it official, I was just like, I'm just going to quit for a little bit. I kind of need to give my mind a rest anyway. So I'm going to take, I don't know when I'm going to go back, if ever. I'm sure I will, but I need time off. So it was about 3 months before I was going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was about all I lasted.
And then In Case It Rains was kind of born out of you just being like, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah.
And I remember you sent me the first 2 tracks, and I was like, holy shit. Because, I mean, what really shocked me was there was a point where you're like, let's start a cover band. And you're talking to me, and I learned a few songs on the guitar for you.
Yeah.
And I think we had 1 practice.
Yeah.
And it went well. But I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do, because I was already doing like acoustic cover band thing with someone else. I'm like, I don't want to be that dude who just does like acoustic duo covers all the time.
Yeah.
And at the time, that was like one of the first times I'd ever heard you sing. I was like, he's all right, he's good, he can hit the notes, I guess. And then hearing the full production of In Case It Rains, like 9 months later or a year later or whatever it was, I was like, holy shit! I'm like, he can actually sing.
Yeah, I was honestly like, the months that were in between, like me and you hanging out and playing and those recordings, I actually like really kind of learned to sing. Like up until that point, I'd always kind of sang a little bit, but it wasn't like I hadn't practiced. I hadn't tried to develop my voice. I didn't try to learn it all.
Now, is Rivers Monroe going to take advantage of having a drummer who can sing?
No, I told them flat out when I walked in the band, I was just like, do you need another singer? They have 3 people that sing already. Yeah. And they were just like, no, you don't have to sing if you don't want to. I was like, thank God, I don't want to sing. I'm done. And it's not because I don't like singing. I do like singing. It's just that when you always have to worry about being sick. Like, I could be on the verge of death and I can still play drums and get through a gig.
Yeah.
You know, I'll throw up on the side of the stage, but whatever. But when it comes down to, like, having to actually sing, you fucking breathe something in wrong. You go on stage and, like, that's it. You're like, ah! you know.
Well, and like my issue has always been, I like to have fun on stage, and I have fun beyond the capability of my body's willingness to continue singing while while doing other work. And you have, I think you have at least the Beastie Boys set on tape, and I'm sure you have a few other random Saint Mort performances on tape.
Yeah,
where like you can tell that there's that point halfway through the set where I have been so jumping around and flailing around that I've physically exhausted my body beyond its ability to continue performing, but I keep going. Yeah, and that's why I'm like, I could never be the singer of a legit band.
That's what kind of bothers me about it now. And like, as much as I love Icer, I call it Icer. As much as I love Icer, you know, that is one downside to it. And at one point, when I had gone in to record those songs, you know, I had said, like you had said, I had just said, screw it, I'm tired of dealing with other people. I'm just going to go in and do a couple songs just for me to see what happens. Yeah. And it wasn't, I honestly, when I recorded them, wasn't sure if I was going to post them on any sort of site, or if I was just going to record and listen to them, go, oh, cool, I wrote, you know, some stuff and recorded it myself. So I went in, tracked all the instrumentation myself pretty much, and recorded everything, sent it through mixing, mastering, whatever. And when I got the songs back, I was like, oh, they're not as bad as I expect them to be. I have low self-esteem, I guess. I expect them to turn out great. No, you know.
I mean, here's my question for you is, I mean, obviously, the band Icer performing live is no more, but I mean, I know the type of music that you like, and I know the type of music that Rivers Monroe plays, and I know that this isn't a dig at them at all, but I feel like that you could still do In Case It Rains. Like, not as like a touring entity or anything like that, but as a musical outlet for you to still get some expression out, because, I mean, I love you to death, Kevin, but, you know, when I think of Kevin, the team player, it normally is followed by the team player for Team Kevin. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't see you being a happy dude just being the drummer in a band. Like, I see you being that guy who still wants to write and still wants to have control over the music. And Rivers Monroe might not be, they're at a point right now where people know them well enough that they might not be able to exactly expand into the genre of music that Kevin loves.
Yeah, and
like, I'd like to believe that maybe once a year we'll get, you know, one or two songs out of In Case It Rains during your downtime.
That's really going to depend on a lot of things, the main thing being money. Like, I'm always writing. I have other stuff that I've demoed out that I'm really excited to work on. Actually, when on our way out the door, so to speak, I had said that we were kind of working towards having a male and female song, because in my head, like, anybody that knows me on a musical level knows that business is always in the back of my head. You know, I'm always kind of thinking about how I can market the band and like ways that would kind of push things along and whatever. And one of the things I thought would be like a guest vocal spot would be awesome, because we all working people, and we have enough money to where we could have afforded to pull our money together and get somebody with some sort of notoriety to be a guest vocal on one of our songs and hopefully blow us up. And to me, it was kind of like, if it cost us $10,000 to get somebody big on one of our songs and it didn't work out, well, then we just spent $10,000 to not waste any more time.
Yeah.
You know, for the four of us to put it out there and everybody be like, oh, that's cool, yeah. Nah, you guys aren't good enough. I'd be like, well, I guess that solves that.
Yeah.
You know, so, but no, Icer is always going to be my baby, and despite the fact that there are other members, and again, I love them to death, you know, it started off as my sole project, and there is always going to be music coming from Icer, provided I, again, have the money. And while I'm away on tour, oh shit, I forgot to burn that. I gotta stop home. That reminds me. I have band practice tonight, I was thinking.
Yeah.
While I'm away on tour, I'm still going to be demoing stuff out the whole time, and trying to figure out where I'm going. And my mind's always racing too. Like, if you look through my iTunes, I have like literally 1,000 or 1,200 ideas of like little voice memos that I've recorded, and whether they're like a guitar riff idea that I played on guitar or hummed into it, or I had like a random whoa kind of idea or whatever, you know. And any time I'm looking for a song, or I have an idea and I don't know where to go with it, that's kind of what I do. So I can't get away from it, unfortunately. It's kind of torturing in a lot of ways. But
well, I think it's about time to wrap it up. We've been talking for a while. I want you to play a song if you think you're able to get through one, but it's totally fine if you can't, because you do have band practice coming up and you have been coughing quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll try one.
All right, and for the people who are listening while you're setting up to perform, picks right behind you, on the table behind you. No, turn around, facing me.
Oh, thanks.
Where can people go to see where you will be on this Rivers Monroe tour?
So I'm going to be starting off in Kansas City on June 10th, but at June 15th, we're playing the Hard Rock in Philly. So I'll be at that show.
All right, and
locally anyway.
What's the song that you're going to be playing?
Well, what song should I play, Matt?
How about what I consider to be one of your hits?
My hits.
What was the first one? The timing is impeccable.
Oh, it's all in my head.
Yes, that's what I thought it was, but I wasn't sure if that was the title, so I wasn't going to say it.
Everybody has these damn snarks, but me. I need a snark so bad.
That was a Christmas gift. A really good Christmas gift.
Have you ever restrummed this?
No.
It's actually my home. It still sounds out of tune. Sorry, folks. I suck at this. Okay. This could be the death of me. And your timing is impeccable. I can't stop seeing you in my dreams. And I wanna hate you with every fiber of my being.